A stately woman of advanced years, with tracers of her former beauty on her face, walked to the window and opened it wide. Fresh air rushed into the room, smelling of fall foliage and happiness. Jane Alexander watched wistfully as the sun rose over her town. Tears slowly flowed down her cheeks. Feeling their salty taste, she whispered, "The most beautiful day of my life, because I'm crying for joy." So much sadness had passed over my head, and I thought, there will be no bright streak in my fate. She proudly shook her gray head and smiled. Memories swam before her eyes, bringing her back to the past. It was 43 autumns ago. Jane was young and quite luscious at the time. She was starting away from her home region in the middle of the country. Her dream was to be a math teacher. Spring was in the air. The trees was blossoming, spreading their heady fragrance through the streets. To the smooth rhythm of classic compositions from the small cozy square, Jane thought about her thoughts. She had to go back to the institute dormitory and was heading to the bus stop when suddenly she heard, "Girl, you left your purse." Jane turned around, and with a smile, she ran over to the bench and picked up the forgotten bag. "Thank you very much," she said, embarrassed. "Shall we go for a walk?" The young man invited her. "The weather is beautiful." "I won't refuse," agreed the girl. They held hands and could only talk to each other during the evening. Jane found out that her boyfriend's name was Alan Walker, and he was a student too. He was tall, athletic, dark-haired and blue-eyed. His movements were smooth and unhurried, and his speech was ardent and inspired. From the first moment of their meeting, he captured Jane's attention, provoked her to frankness, and won her trust. The whole evening, they felt calm and confident. Time flew by unnoticed. Ellen walked her to her apartment. He did not want to part, but it was already late at night. He approached the girl and gently touched her warm, velvety cheek. "I don't want to leave." He looked at his beloved, unable to look away. "You know, I feel like I'm leaving a part of my heart with you. And in your presence, I feel our meeting is destined by fate. It's a celebration. I've touched something real, yours, to the point of groaning in pain." She smiled faintly, and wrapping her arms around her lover's neck, nestled against his lips. That night, they said goodbye, but soon they met again. Again, they walked around the evening city, enjoying the beautiful evening. Suddenly, the couple was caught in a heavy downpour. Both of them were soaking wet. Ellen suggested that Jane dry off and shower at his dormitory. They held hands and ran down the street, braving the big puddles. Walker's room was fortunately empty, as were the roommates. The boys were away on vacation. It was pretty clean and cozy inside. Warmed under the jet of hot water, Jane ducked into a spacious man's robe and stepped out of the tube. "Drink?" Alan brought glasses of sparkling champagne. Jane emptied hers with pleasure. The girl felt the hot blood running through her veins. She rarely drank alcohol, but in company of a handsome young man, she relaxed completely. She drank the second glass slowly, savoring the taste and aroma of the drink. The hope hit her head. Alan fascinated her more and more. The moment he embraced and kissed her, Jane completely melted. His touch stupefied the girl, and she gave herself to her love with all her passion. "I love you," Alan whispered, caressing her. "I'm so happy we met, but unfortunately we have to part. I have to go away for a few days." "Alan, but you will be back soon, won't you?" exclaimed the girl. "Of course. I would like you to wait for me." "Oh, yes." Jane clung to him. He took her in his arms. "Will you wait for me?" "I will." "Promise?" "I swear it." At dawn, Jane woke up and went to the bathroom. She wanted to return to bed and experience the happiness of love again. Ellen was glad to have her back. He pressed the beauty to his chest and was very gentle with her. 3 days later, the man left and Jane never saw him again. Realizing that she had a new life in her heart, she tried to contact her beloved, but could not get through. The subscriber was not available. Unable to get rid of the child, she quit her studies and left for the native land. Their parents were not delighted with her arrival, but in the end, they accepted their daughter and decided to raise her child. Son Michael was born an exact copy of his father, inheriting from his dark hair, which was curly and thick by nature, and from his mother, amazing sparkling green eyes framed by thick black eyelashes. Jane's parents spoiled the little girl with everything they could, then loved the boy with all their soul. Michael grew up healthy and strong, and his appearance and behavior traced similarities with Alan Walker. When he went to school, the difficulties began. His mother and grandparents were confident he would perfectly cope with all school tasks because the guy was brilliant. But it was not so. On the first day, he was so bored that Michael ran away from lessons. As it turns out, he did not want to learn. He explained his reluctance to go to school because he had some allergies to the teachers. Teachers complained about the boy's behavior, stubbornness, intransigence, arrogance, aggressiveness. Sometimes he flatly refused to obey the requirements of discipline. Michael did everything contrary and did not tolerate any criticism. Jane turned to help from a psychologist. After talking to the child, the specialist gave her a verdict. Your son is perfectly healthy. At his age, the mind cannot yet fully control emotions. The lack of paternal upbringing also includes regimen, reasonable demands, and increased autonomy. Think about the methods of the upbringing. Maybe you overprotected or spoiled her. And of course, it is desirable to continue working with me. This will help him find adequate, accepted ways of behavior in society. The psychologist gave his recommendations, and Jane tried to adhere to them strictly. They, for some time, came to him for psychotherapy sessions. However, the situation only continued to escalate. Soon the child categorically refused to go to the psychologist, and Jane could not motivate him for further treatment. It was difficult for the woman to cope with distortions in her son's behavior alone. She passed before the difficulties that arose. The parents helped Jane as much as possible, but time took its toll. They were getting old and inactive. The moment came when she, already with a grown-up Michael, was left alone. The woman's parents had died. Jane became the owner of the cottage on the outskirts of the hometown, but she lacked the money to pay for it. She never got an education, so she worked nights as a cleaner at the local pizzeria. One day, wiping down the tables after another shift, she noticed an ad for a vacancy at the school. The woman immediately thought of opportunity to earn money. Jane always liked order and knew how vital cleanliness in educational institutions is for children's health. With this thought, she decided that it was time to act, and the next day, having gathered her courage, she called the school to ask for the position. She entered the principal's office at the appointed time, and he invited her to tell her a little about herself. I've read your characteristics and was satisfied, he said. I need a decent woman. Are you ready to start today? Yes, of course, Jane quickly agreed. The work had brought in some extra income for the family, and she sighed with relief. Jane was sometimes tired in style, but her heart was warmed by the thought that she was bringing home more money and could spoil her son. The woman pitied him and forgave him everything. She was justifying the boys negatively by being fatherless. Michael is utterly distanced from his mother and immersed in a dissolute life. Behind him, he firmly established a reputation as a bully. In school, he skipped classes and arrogantly behaved with teachers. In addition, his psyche began to unravel. The guy constantly quarreled with his mother, emotionally blackmailed her, and brazenly manipulated her, forcing her to obey his whims and desires. Then, he had friends from the criminal world. Jane did everything she could to get her son out of bad company. She cut off the pawn's parents, ran through brothels and dance clubs, and pulled him drunk out of cars and hotel rooms. But no worries and even more reasonable maternal arguments did not touch the guy's petrified heart. Only his selfish demands concerned him. At 16, he began a personal life full of passion. Michael was handsome and enjoyed great popularity among the opposite sex. Still, his fame could not have been better, and no one took him seriously. He went through the girls to his taste, but no decent did not want to deal with him. Jane's nerves were frayed. Michael's antics increasingly undermined her weakened health. She was so mentally exhausted that her chronic illnesses made themselves known all at once. Jane had somewhat shrunk from a beautiful, full of vitality lady. She turned into a lean and aged woman. At 55, she was completely gray. Deep wrinkles were near her eyes, and her mouth was frozen in a sad half smile. In the long evenings, alone in her empty apartment, the woman paced from corner to corner. She sometimes looked out the window, holding out a vain hope that Michael will see the light, wise up, and return to his home, get his head on straight. She worried a great deal about his future. Jane began to suffer from insomnia. So often at night, she thought about why she had suffered such a fate, what she did wrong. When had she missed her son? Where had she been wrong? And why she couldn't stop him from falling. And the more she thought about it, the more she doubted the rightness of her actions, and the more her doubts terminated her. But it was all in vain. I should have seen and recognized the coming trouble, but my intuition failed me. The woman thought, I should have known what was happening. I should have prevented it. What am I going to do with him? Her work distracted her a little, but money was once again scarce. Now her son demanded that she buy him a motorcycle for prom night. So Jane worked harder than ever. What else was there to do? She picked up a broom and a mop and went at it. She wanted to please Michael and give him such an expensive gift. She thought he would appreciate it and treat her better. Jane denied herself everything, so she managed to buy her son a motorcycle. The woman decided she would give it to him at the graduation party. And so the event came. Jane arranged for the gift delivery and happily went to the party, where the students and teachers of the local school gathered. She had no sooner crossed the institution's threshold as she ran out to meet her furious Michael. "Why did you come here like this? Do you want to embarrass me?" he shouted. "Look at you. What are you wearing? Like the last hobo. An old dress and pantyhose are shabby." Jane lowered her eyes in bewilderment. She was in such a hurry to make her son happy that she didn't notice how she had coughed on something and turned her clothes. "Son, don't chase me," she begged. "I want it so much." "Fuck you." The boy freaked out, throwing angry glances at his mother. Their dialogue attracted attention, and people appeared at an open windows. And the new headmaster came to the doorstep. Jane had heard from the staff that the head had changed, but she had never met him. He had just taken up his post the other day. The other parents had met the man at the graduation ceremony. Still, Jane was working a shift at the pizza parlor that day. The principal stepped closer to them, and the woman went numb. She recognized the man. The years had taken their toll, of course, but he was still as handsome as he had been in the years they had known each other. At that moment, a motorcycle pulled up to the school, "Here, Michael, my graduation present to you," she whispered weakly. The new principal took her hand in his and kissed it tenderly. The audience at the windows gasped. They were even more surprised when he led Jane to the motorcycle. They got on it, the engine roared, and soon the strange couple disappeared around the nearest corner. Michael saw a tall, dark man exit his mother's bedroom the next day. He recognized him as his former principal. "What are you doing here?" The boy looked dumbfounded at the intruder. "I live here," he answered. "On what grounds?" Michael fumed. "It's your father," came the quiet voice of his mother from behind the brunette. Michael was speechless and froze with his mouth open in the middle of the hall. "Yes, it is," said Alan Walker. "And I intend to marry Jane." "You've been gone for years, and you showed up." The boy clenched his fists. "I couldn't give any news about myself, because I was a witness to a crime. I was assigned a mission that required complete confidentiality and detachment from the outside world. Realizing the danger and importance of my assignment, I was forced to abruptly cut off all contact with those around me, including Jane, to ensure the safety of both myself and my loved ones. It was a difficult decision, but I knew no other option. As soon as the dangerous child molester was cuffed, I was free and immediately sought out my beloved." Michael was stunned by what he heard. It turns out his father was almost a hero. He thought so poorly of him and tormented his mother about it. He went over and hugged Jane. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm not as bad as I want to be." Jane pressed her son to her and stroked his thick, stiff hair. "I would like to get to know you better," he said to Ellen. When Michael's father reappeared in their lives, it was like a wind of change that brought up with not only excitement but also hope for a new beginning. Over time, they built a healthy family relationship through their combined efforts and desire to be together. Jane and her son learned to accept their father for who he was. He in turn tried to be not just a return page from the past, but a real father and husband, bringing fresh ideas and emotions into their home. Dinners together, family conversations until late at night, and weekends together all helped them bond and genuinely become a close-knit family. Michael was convinced that his parents had deep feelings for each other. They were so good together that every task seemed manageable and every adversity surmountable. Fully revealed in their love, they treasured every moment they spent together. In order not to lose this fairy tale, they got married. Domesticity did not destroy their ideal. On the contrary, the relationship brought them even closer together. They managed to find a compromise. It did not quarrel over anything. And what did he find in this wretch? People said. Alan almost carried his wife in his arms. They lived happily ever after. Every day, Jane grew fresher and more beautiful. Alan persuaded her to quit her hard work. The woman took a particular course to become an elementary school teacher. She went to work at the school together with her husband. The woman could find an approach to each pupil, see something special and exemplary in him, direct to the study, help and guide him on the path of truth. Of course, some envious people slandered her and make her look bad in front of the director. Her initiative and responsibility irritated many people. People did not want to work and were lazy, and the desire to fulfill their duties was regarded as arrogance. Jane stood her ground and kept her reputation, and no one managed to smear her. Jane woke up from her memories and sighed happily. It was autumn again in the small town on the Pacific coast. It was gentle and warm. Soft sunlight shone through the golden foliage on the Walker couple. The warm wind swirled the fallen leaves in a slow dance. Jane was a happy woman now, twice a grandmother. Ellen held her hand and kept his loving eyes on her. A violinist was playing in one of the pavilions. A gentle, flowing melody filled the space around them. The evening was soulful and warm, beauty ranged everywhere, and hearts were warmed by joy and love. The Walkers had been enjoying the fireworks of feeling for 5 years and were planning the future. It was magnificent. Their enthusiastic eyes, the spirit of unity, the purity and sincerity of their relationship. Nearby, the children were galloping. They frolicked hardly, catching up with each other. They grew up, and in their open, childish, naive look, read love and admiration. The most important people were near. One could live, grow, and not be afraid of anything. Come to us, Jane called her granddaughters, and the girls confidently took a few steps toward them. They held their little chubby hands to their grandparents and walked along the shady alley. How nice it is, Jane smiled. As the years passed, she began to appreciate the moments spent with Alan more and more. The woman noticed a new depth and understanding in their relationship. She felt that every day with him was filled with warmth and care, which made her happy. What was happy? Her husband needed help understanding. To leave, my love, to leave.